Here's the real reason why Chris Paul was traded to the Houston Rockets. Now, Chris Paul, one of the greatest point guards of all time. Some argue top 10, some argue top 5. To me personally, I think he definitely is top 10, but top 5, that's where it gets a little bit tricky. Simply for the fact that he really hasn't won. I mean, throughout his career, he's never made it out of the second round of the playoffs. And, for a team like the San Antonio Spurs, who I thought he might join, well, I guess I was wrong because Chris Paul has now been traded to the Houston Rockets. Yes, I get it. It's on a 1-year deal. A lot can happen, but I want to talk about the real reason why Chris Paul was traded to the Houston Rockets, and no one is talking about this situation. Because I watched a lot of videos about the whole Chris Paul situation, why he was traded to the Houston Rockets and how he was traded to the Houston Rockets, who for, things like that, but this wasn't really come up in any video. No one talked about the whole Doc Rivers situation because Doc Rivers refused a huge trade with the New York Knicks that involved his son, Austin Rivers, for Carmelo Anthony. Now, I know that sounds crazy, and we're going to get into the story, and this is the real reason why Chris Paul left the Clippers to join the Houston Rockets. Now, being a father of a son in the NBA, that's got to be one of the hardest things because really, you want him to succeed. You want your son to do well. But you're the coach of your own son. You determine how well he plays. Not how well he plays, but how many minutes he gets, things like that. And for Doc Rivers, this has been the first time in NBA history where the coach has been a father of an actual player on that team. That must be super hard for Doc Rivers, but Doc Rivers, not only was he the coach, he was also the operations guy. He managed the whole situation in LA. He was the GM. And he decided where players would go and if they would stay. Honestly, he messed up. And one of the reasons why was because of his own son. And this is a pretty crazy situation. In a move that shocked the entire NBA world, the Clippers sent superstar Chris Paul to the Houston Rockets. Now, in return, they did get guards, Lou Williams and Patrick Beverley. They got a young guy in Sam Dekker, and they got a top 3 protected 2018 first overall pick. And they also got just a couple of other role players that won't really play too much. But I do like Harrell. I think Harrell's a really nice guy. When he got in the NBA, I was really hyped about him. I thought he'd be like a Kenneth Faried type of player, but he hasn't really had much chance to do anything in the NBA. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do in Los Angeles. But the Clippers as an organization, they were a bit messy this past couple of years. I mean, they weren't good enough to win a championship. They couldn't even make it out of the second round of the playoffs. And I get it. They had a lot of injuries, especially when they got into the playoffs. Blake Griffin injured. Chris Paul injured. They didn't have the best luck. And a lot of people say that the Clippers are cursed and how they have horrible luck. But it's just, I don't know what's going on with the Clippers, but I think it's about damn time that they start to split up this team. And the first thing they did was, get rid of Chris Paul. Well, actually, no. The first thing they did was sign Jerry West. If you want to watch a video about that, I have it on my channel. But now that they have Jerry West, his first move, actually, nobody's really talking about this either. Jerry West's first move as part of the Clippers was trading away Chris Paul, which is a pretty big move if you ask me. Now, there were reports that Chris Paul was considering signing with the Houston Rockets during free agency, but he decided to opt in and pick up his player option so that the Clippers organization could actually get something from the deal, which was very unexpected. And it's also a very classy move by Chris Paul because Chris Paul easily could have left. He could have sent the Clippers with nothing, but instead he decided, I'll opt in. I'll get the Clippers some players that they can build from, and then with that, I'll just join my new team. But the reason for Chris Paul's discomfort with the Clippers were not really known until the time he was traded. And a lot really speculated over that time, but this is really where it started. People talked about a poor relationship with teammate Blake Griffin, and Blake Griffin, I don't think that's a real issue there. I think that's a lot of the media just hyping it up. I don't think there was much frustration, and I don't think there was a poor relationship with Blake Griffin and Chris Paul at all. The thing is, what the media was saying was there was a lot of frustration as they were never able to get past the second round, but that was all speculation in my opinion, and I don't really believe that. However, the NBA world, we got what we were asking for. The truth to why Chris Paul was traded from Los Angeles to Houston, and I'm going to read you what I've read, and this has come from multiple sources within the Clippers organization, and this is really big news. So let me just read it for you. Chris Paul's relationship with Doc Rivers started to deteriorate rapidly after the Clippers acquired Austin Rivers. Several members of the team felt Austin acted entitled because his dad was both coach and president of basketball operations, and this is what I was talking about before. He was the GM of the Clippers and he had full ownership of them. He decided who came, who got traded, and how he would run the team, which is pretty crazy, but I guess we should have known this from the start. In the view of the players, Austin Rivers never tried to fit in, and when the players tried to address the situation with him, he still didn't respond the way the core of the team wanted him to. It led to resentment within the locker room, which often played out during games. One of the biggest issues that Chris Paul had was that him and Doc Rivers, as well as other players, felt that Doc treated his son, Austin Rivers, more favorably than any other player. He would yell at guys for certain things during games and practices, but he would never target his own son, Austin Rivers, which that's a pretty crazy scenario there. And if Eves is correct, who obviously is a part of the Clippers organization, the Clippers had a chance to acquire Carmelo Anthony for Austin Rivers and Jamal Crawford. This would have been massive in LA. Imagine that. Chris Paul, JJ Redick, Carmelo Anthony, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. That is a legit... It may not be a championship team, but it can come close. Definitely in the Eastern Conference Finals for sure. I mean, yeah, I get it. They did get injured, but who would have known? Had Carmelo Anthony been on the team, that may have taken a lot of pressure off Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. They may not have got injured. So in the long term, you really don't know. It's a really crazy what if scenario right there. But what really solidified Paul's dissatisfaction with Doc Rivers was a proposed trade involving Carmelo Anthony last season. New York offered Carmelo Anthony and Sasha Vujacic to the Clippers in exchange for Jamal Crawford, Paul Pierce, and Austin Rivers. A deal which obviously Rivers said no to, which is crazy. Doc Rivers, you literally could have had Carmelo Anthony on your team, and all you had to do was give up Jamal Crawford, Paul Pierce, who, let's be honest here, Paul Pierce is not the same guy that he was in Boston, for sure, and his own son, Austin Rivers. That is absolutely insane. And that event right there is the real reason why Chris Paul wanted out of LA. That event right there, that is the reason, because this came after Chris Paul signed a verbal agreement. For those that don't know or don't remember, Chris Paul signed a verbal agreement to join the Los Angeles Clippers after this season. Do we all remember that? I hope we do, because you can look it up if you don't believe me. It was a real thing. Chris Paul agreed to come back to LA. But after this situation right here, this event where Doc Rivers didn't want to trade his own son away for Carmelo Anthony, well, that's the reason why Chris Paul declined the verbal agreement and got traded in the end to a new team, which is the Houston Rockets. And obviously, their roster was more important to Doc than improving the team. Having his own son on the roster was more important to Doc than improving his own team. So ultimately, Chris Paul lost both trust and faith in Doc Rivers as a coach, as a GM, and as a person. And as one league executive put it, Chris despised Doc Rivers. This all aligns with what Glenn Big Baby Davis ripped Doc for in February, and this is what he said about Austin in June. If Austin Rivers cost his team both Carmelo Anthony and Chris Paul, then he's already cemented himself as an all-time NBA heel, which is pretty crazy, and this is the real reason why Chris Paul was traded to the Houston Rockets. So, let me know down below what you think. Honestly, in my opinion, this is one of the most crazy NBA storylines of all time, because that would have been absolutely insane. Not to mention, there's other things to come out of this. Now with that, Blake Griffin may want to leave. They're looking to trade DeAndre Jordan. JJ Redick is on the move. The Clippers are all going downhill, and this is the real reason why. Doc Rivers, I get it, you love your son, but this is why there has never been a father-son combination in the NBA like this. This is the first time ever that a coach has been a father of a son who is on his team. And obviously, I don't think we'll see anything like this ever again in the NBA because of reasons like this. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to drop a like. Subscribe if you're new. I hope you guys are enjoying the videos. I'm trying to go every day, every 2 days, or every 3 days, NBA videos regularly on this channel. So if you guys enjoy, please leave a like on the video. Let's aim for 4,000 likes, and I'll catch you guys in my next video, which should be why Derrick Rose needs to sign with the San Antonio Spurs. I'll catch you guys there. I'm out. Peace.